Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here and welcome to my guide to Aglaia, the first 24-man in the Endwalker expansion. There are 4 bosses and a couple of trash pulls to handle, so let's get started. If you're looking to skip to any specific boss, please use the timestamps in the description. After zoning in, you'll be greeted by Byrgot, the first boss. Ordeal of Thunder is a generic room-wide AoE he'll use, and Byrgot's Ward is an AoE tank buster on the main tank. Ensure to stay away from the main tank when you see this casting. His first real attack is Byrgot's Strike. Byrgot will mark a location before leaping to it and knocking all players away from the impact point. Players in the actual impact will take high damage, but otherwise it's nothing fancy. Occasionally, Byrgot will buff himself with Builder's Build, enhancing the effect of Byrgot's Strike. He will now additionally perform 4 conal AoEs from the impact point, marked under his actual body during the cast. If the AoEs under him are directly cardinal relative to the direction he's facing, stand on an intercardinal side of the impact point. If the AoEs are intercardinal, stand cardinal. After the buffed strike, Byrgot will jump to the center of the room and change the arena, destroying the east and west sides and removing the walls, meaning yes, you can fall off now. He will then summon hammers along the east and west sides that, after a short delay, smack into the arena and shift all the squares in a row over one space. This will not move the player, so you'll need to make sure you're never along the edge of the arena right next to a hammer, or you'll just fall off. A second set of hammers will occur, though this time Byrgot places an additional hammer on one of the arena squares, dealing damage in a latitudinal line that it's making. When the hammers shift the arena, they will also move the hammer AoE one square, so ensure you are not in its final path while ensuring you don't fall off. A final set of hammers will occur while Byrgot jumps to the north side of the room and readies a massive AoE called Byrgot's Spire. You'll need to wait for the hammers to strike, which will open up some safe spots just outside of the AoE's range. Use these to dodge Byrgot's Spire. Generally, being on the opposite side of a hammer strike will ensure a nice, easy safe spot movement. With this, Byrgot will reset the arena back to normal. This will mostly just repeat the first part of the fight's mechanics with one additional mechanic, Reproduce. Byrgot will summon a wall of avatars along the east side of the arena. He will then empower 3 of them, causing the gradually moving AoE they perform to greatly increase in speed. Simply line yourself up with the unbuffed clone, get to the opposite side of the room, and shift over after the fast AoEs pass you. Once you've seen that, Byrgot repeats the arena shifting phase, though the platforms the arena makes are slightly different. There's also an additional hammer AoE to avoid in the first set, but with this, you're ready to beat Byrgot. On the way to the second boss, you'll be intercepted by Rhalgr's Emissary, which just has a few attacks. Destructive Static is a 180-degree AoE in front of the bird, so get behind it when it's casting. This will be followed by lightning orbs that draw outlines around 2 quadrants of the arena, before blowing those quadrants up. Just don't be standing in the closed-off sections during this. There will be some random AoEs targeting player locations, a room-wide AoE called Bolt of the Blue, and a combination of the quadrant attack and destructive static, so you want to dodge the AoEs on the side behind the boss. After that, the only new attack is Bolt Loop, which summons 2 cascading AoEs. Just dodge each hit, and you'll be on to boss number 2. The second boss is Rhalgr, and take special note of the arena's unique shape. You'll need that for a future mechanic. As for his basics, Lightning Rain is a room-wide AoE, and Destructive Bolt will hit all 3 tanks with a small AoE tank buster. Leave lots of room near the front of the boss for them to safely spread and mitigate. His first big mechanic is Advent of the Eighth. This will take 2 of his rings that are floating around his body and summon 2 portals along the north side of the arena. Each portal has a color associated with it as well, and will match the color of one of the 2 remaining rings that Rhalgr still has in his presence. Rhalgr will then ready Hand of the Destroyer and raise one fist into the air. When he slams his fist down into a portal that is placed underneath it, a half-room AoE will come out of the big portal of the same color. This will send players flying off the edge, so ensure to look at which portal he's punching and get to the opposite side. There is also a faint particle tether showing you which one he is currently punching, designated between him and the big portal. Next is Broken World. This will summon a giant proximity meteor on the northeast or northwest side of the arena, so simply get to the opposite side. However, this AoE has an interaction with Advent of the Eighth. Eventually, he'll use both at the same time, and if the meteor is in front of the portal that Rhalgr is punching, it will actually shatter and send several mini proximity AoEs to the opposite side of the arena. So if you see this occurring, you need to stand directly under where the initial proximity AoE is going to be aimed to be safe. There is also a combo where he summons 2 portals and a meteor, but does not punch the meteor, instead hitting the opposite side of the arena with a giant fist like his normal Advent of the 8th. For this, you'll need to dodge the proximity AoE without being hit by the giant half-room fist. This is then followed up by AoEs on random players, so spread out after the proximity and fist AoEs go out. Rhalgr's next attack is Rhalgr's Beacon. This will hit an impact point with a meteor, causing a massive knockback. You'll need to be knocked into the fingers of the arena in order to avoid being thrown off. Fortunately, the attack provides you with arrows on the ground and a small line to show you the exact trajectory of the knockback, so just look for the one that aims directly at a finger and get in the line that it provides to ensure you don't slip off. Later in the fight, this will be combined with lightning orbs all along the fingers, except for one, so you'll need to make sure you look for the right arrows and that there isn't an orb waiting for you at the far end. His only other attack of note is Bronze Work, which does 2 alternating conal AoEs and a bunch of ground AoEs to avoid. So just keep an eye on the portals and meteors, and you'll be just fine. The last bit of trash pits you against the Lion and Lioness of Aglaia. These two just perform the same attacks one at a time, noted with the markers over their head. After doing 2 room wides, they'll do a donut and point blank AoE combo twice in a row, each time using the markers to determine the order. So you either be going in the donut and then out of the point blank, or out of the point blank and into the donut, depending on what the order is. They will then do 2 half room AoEs with the same concept. They then will repeat this until they're defeated. If one is defeated earlier than the other, the remaining one just begins foregoing the order markers and doing one of the AoEs. On to the third boss, Azima. Her room-wide AoE is Warden's Prominence, and her tank buster is Warden's Warmth. Once again, it targets all 3 tanks, so leave some space for them up front. Her first mechanic is Solar Wings. This does 2 large conal AoEs, leaving just 2 thin cones of safe space on opposite sides. When this resolves, it will leave behind 3 Sunstorm orbs on opposite sides of the room, which, after a short delay, explode in a large AoE. The second time she does Solar Wings, she will follow it up with Sun's Shine, summoning 3 clones. These clones will dash next to an orb and perform Hot Air, knocking the orb back 1 position. Simply find a clone and stand next to it for this, as it should be making a safe space for you on this first set. Later in the fight, Azima will summon 4 clones and pair them up so that one knocks their orb into another clone, making only 2 of the 4 clones an actual safe spot. Fortunately, if you just find a clone that is aiming the orb knockback at another, you'll have yourself a safe spot, and there's even some extra safe spots on top of this. Azima's next attack is Solar Fans. This fires 2 line AoEs towards the sides of the room, leaving both of Azima's flaming fans at their end location. She will then use Radiant Rhythm, causing them to swirl 90 degrees around the edge and hit anything in the swirl's path. This will occur 4 or 5 times before she uses Radiant Finish to make each fan do a large AoE. Just stand intercardinal from the center of the room and count out the 4 or 5 rotations before sidestepping to dodge Radiant Finish. When she repeats this attack a second time later, she will rotate them however many times she didn't the first time. So if she does 4 swirls the first time, she'll do 5 the second, and vice versa. She will also use Fleeting Spark right after Radiant Finish the second time, doing a 270 degree AoE in the direction that she is facing, so get behind her. She actually does this shortly after the end of Radiant Finish number 1 as well, but this is more likely to catch you off guard because it will happen before she even returns the fans to her side. Her next new attack is Solar Fold, firing a cross AoE from the center of the room. This leaves behind 4 tiny rectangles of lava that will gradually expand. Stepping in these will deal massive damage over time, so don't. She will also use Sunshine here, summoning 2 clones. When they use Hot Air, they will actually fan the nearest flame in the direction they are facing, covering the quadrant of the room opposite to them. Just find a clone and stand in the same quadrant as it for this first set. Now, if you don't kill her too quickly, you will see this mechanic again later in the fight, where she'll use 3 clones instead of 2. These ones will actually fan the flames towards each other, so you need to get to the quadrant that isn't being aimed at by a clone, which should be next to the first clone in the chain. Next is Wildfire Ward. This covers the entire arena other than a triangle in the center of the room with fire, which will apply a burn to any players who touch it. She will then perform 3 knockback AoEs back to back, pushing players across the triangle. You just need to line up all 3 pushbacks so that you wind up on the opposite corner of the triangle. The hits themselves do also do some damage, so watch your health here. Her final mechanic is Noble Dawn. This summons a sun in the center of the arena that fires 3 sets of AoEs, 1 set at a time. Simply avoid the first or second sets, and then quickly make your way into an open safe spot after they appear. This is immediately followed by a Sublime Sunset, a proximity AoE that Azima aims at the side of the arena in the direction she is facing. Get behind her when you see it casting and you'll be fine. After this, it's just all of the more difficult variants of the mechanics I've already discussed, so it's all stuff you've either seen or I've already described, so you're good. With that, we can move on to the final boss, Nald'thal. The main gimmick of this fight is that Nald'thal will summon 2 or more types of attacks at once, but only actually use one of them. Which attack will be used can be identified in a number of ways. The arena wall color, the color of the small lamps next to the boss, and even the dialogue box and flipping animation that Nald'thal does. They also have a tendency to swap about halfway through the cast bar of their attacks, with a dialogue pop-up such as, "Nald, I leave them to you." So don't overcommit to dodging one before roughly the 50% cast bar mark. Nald'thal will open with As Above, So Below, dealing AoE damage and summoning a Darkfire Donut and Redfire Point Blank AoE. Follow the rules we mentioned earlier to avoid the dangerous one. So if the arena is dark, you want to stand in the red fire. If the arena is red, stand in the dark fire. This attack will actually repeat twice in a row to show you both outcomes at the start. After this will be Heaven's or Hell's Trial, depending on which half of Nald'thal is active. Hell's Trial is just big room-wide damage, while Heaven's Trial fires 3 conal AoEs and a split damage AoE at the party. You just need to resolve these in the obvious manner. This is followed up by one of 2 tank busters. Golden Tenet is a stacked AoE buster, so all the tanks should stack up. Stygian Tenet fires 3 separate AoE tank busters, so the tanks should all spread away from each other and everyone else. With that, we move on to As Above, So Below number 3, which has different attacks from the first 2. This one will do either a split damage line AoE, or spawn 3 AoEs that chase 3 marked players. If the arena is fire, it will do the line AoE, and if it's dark, the AoEs that chase the marked players. If you're marked and it's dark, get to the edge and drop the first AoE, and then run away. As Above, So Below number 4 will summon 8 gradually moving AoEs, but only 4 of them will activate depending on the arena color. Just get to the side opposite of the arena color AoEs. Next is Hell of Fire, which is a 180 degree AoE in the direction of the light indicator. Nald'thal can flip this in reverse like the other attacks, so be sure to check if Nald'thal is still aiming it in front of them or if they're flipping it to aim behind. The next mechanic is Wayward Soul. This will summon Thal's balls in sets of 3, causing massive explosions at their impact point. There's nothing to it but to just avoid them. A final set will be cast as well, dropping them one at a time along the entire arena. Just get behind the first one and follow behind the explosion to ensure safety. After a second Hell of Fire, Nald'thal will use Fired Up. This will mark a location on the arena while the boss shows you what type of AoE will occur from that spot, either a knockback or a point blank AoE. The first set of Fired Up AoEs has a knockback and a point blank, so when you see Nald'thal casting Fortune's Flux, the finisher that actually executes it, get to the knockback location and aim yourself away from the AoE. The second Fired Up will do 3 impact points. I've seen point blank into knockback into point blank, and point blank into knockback, meaning that you need to set it up so the third knockback doesn't send you into the wall, which is going to deal quite a bit of damage. So long as you make sure not to get hit by any of the point blank AoEs or get tossed into the wall, you should be a-okay. After this comes the most important mechanic of the fight, Soul's Measure. This attack will pit the raid against 3 immobile adds. Each one will tether to a whole alliance, so for simplicity's sake, group up next to the one you are tethered to. The add itself will just do conal AoEs and drop split damage AoEs on you as well. These split damage stacks do not disappear if the add dies, so do not disperse if you defeat yours early. Once they are defeated, Nald'thal will place a weight marker over every player's head as well as big weights over the defeated adds. Your goal is to make the scales on the north side of the arena balance out using these weighted markers. The easiest way to achieve this is to have each alliance stand on the side of the arena opposite of where their ad was defeated. Now you'll notice it's not an exact science, since different ads actually have different amounts of weight over their head. But if you do this, it actually gives you a 1 to 2 person leeway to make a mistake, or makes it so that it's a quick fix if you see people aren't in the correct spot, so long as too many people don't overcorrect. Since there's a bit of leeway, it shouldn't be too bad, but if the scales aren't balanced by the end, well, you're gonna be trying again when you get back here after you wipe. After this will be more as above so belows with similar rules. The big change is that multiple versions can actually occur simultaneously, such as the donut plus point blank AoEs at the same time as the split damage line and chasing AoEs. They will follow the same rules though, so if it's Darkfire, everyone will have to be in the middle before the chased AoE players run out and away to dodge their circles. If it's fire, it'll be stand in the Darkfire and stack together for the line AoE. So you're just following the same rules 2 at a time. Other than that though, Nald'thal should be defeated in no time at all, and with that, you will have completed Aglaia. Remember, you can only win 1 piece of gear per week, but the cards, the Orchestrions, and the minion, you can roll on as many times as you want, so don't worry about those locking you out. On top of that, you'll get a coin weekly that you can use to buy an upgrade material for your tombstone gear, so you can upgrade it from 590 to 600. And with that, that's going to be a wrap for my guide to Aglaia. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for more videos coming on the channel. Anyway, with that, I'll see you in the next one, and until then, take care.